It is always there, our silent partner, our constant companion. For the whole of human history, it has been a beacon in the dark, a guardian of the night, a puller of tides, and a source of myth, poetry, and wonder. We have stared up at it, landed on it, and taken it for granted as a permanent, unchanging feature of our reality. But imagine, just for a moment, that we are wrong. Imagine you are standing outside, looking up at its familiar, pale glow, and in a single, silent, impossible instant, it's gone. Not exploded, not faded, simply vanished, as if it was never there. The night sky is suddenly empty, terrifyingly black. What happens next? It is not just about darker nights. The disappearance of the moon is the pulling of a trigger, the start of a planetary apocalypse that will unfold in 4 catastrophic stages. This is the story of the end of the world, beginning not with a bang, but with a disappearance. This is what happens if the moon vanishes. The first stage of the apocalypse is not slow. It is immediate, violent, and absolute. It is the stage of the Great Release. To understand the chaos, you must first understand what the moon is doing right now. Think of the moon's gravity as a physical leash constantly pulling on our planet. This leash is strongest on the side of the Earth facing the moon and weakest on the side farthest away. This gravitational grip pulls the entire planet, but it most visibly pulls our oceans. It gathers the water into 2 massive tidal bulges. One bulge is on the side directly facing the moon, pulled toward it. The other, counterintuitively, is on the opposite side of the Earth, where the planet's core is pulled away from the water, leaving it behind. These 2 mountains of water are held in place, locked by the moon's gravity as the Earth spins beneath them. These are our high tides. The instant the moon vanishes, that gravitational leash snaps. Those 2 colossal mountains of displaced ocean, billions of tons of ocean, are suddenly released. They are no longer held in place. Gravity takes over, and they collapse. This isn't a normal wave. It is a planetary-scale slosh, a phenomenon scientists call a tidal tsunami. From opposite sides of the planet, 2 waves, kilometers high, begin to move. They don't just move toward the shore. They move to reclaim the entire ocean basin. They rush toward each other and away from their origin points at the speed of a jetliner. Within hours, every single coastline on Earth is struck. Not 1, but 2 opposing mega tsunamis scour the continents. Imagine a wall of water, a dark line on the horizon, stretching from end to end. It is not a wave you can surf or outrun or survive. It is the ocean itself rising up to reclaim the land. New York, London, Tokyo, Shanghai, Sydney, Rio, every coastal city, every port, every town for hundreds of kilometers inland is erased from the map, scoured down to the bedrock. But the water, in its unimaginable violence, is only half of the problem. The moon's leash doesn't just pull on the oceans, it also pulls on the land. Right now, the very crust of the Earth you are standing on is being stretched, pulled upward several inches by the moon's gravity. We don't feel it because the entire continent moves as one. When that leash snaps, the pressure is released. It's like snapping a trillion-ton rubber band that has been stretched for 4 billion years. The planet's crust rebounds. This sudden global shift triggers a catastrophic seismic event. It's not one earthquake. It's every earthquake everywhere, all at once. Every fault line on the planet, pushed to its breaking point for millennia, is given the final nudge. The survivors of the great tsunami, huddled on the highest mountaintops, would not be safe. They would be thrown to the ground as the mountains themselves shake apart. Magnitude 9, 10, even 11 earthquakes would rupture the planet. Volcanoes, their magma chambers squeezed by the rebounding crust, would erupt in a planetary chain reaction, choking the sky with ash. And as this happens, the first night falls. It is a night of unimaginable terror. The sky is black, filled with screaming wind and falling ash. The land is shaking, and the only light comes from the red-hot magma bleeding from the planet's wounds. This is just the first 24 hours, and the worst is yet to come. Stage 2. The Great Spin Up. The Moon's second greatest job, after holding the oceans, is to act as Earth's brake. For billions of years, the Moon has been actively slowing us down. That very same tidal bulge of water doesn't sit perfectly aligned with the Moon. Because the Earth spins faster than the Moon orbits, the bulge is dragged slightly ahead of the Moon. This leading bulge of water has its own gravity, and it in turn pulls the Moon forward, flinging it into a slightly higher orbit, millimeter by millimeter, year by year. But Newton's third law is absolute. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. As the bulge pulls the Moon pulls back on the bulge. This backward pull acts as a massive planet-wide brake pad. It creates a friction that has for eons been stealing Earth's rotational energy. It is the only reason our day is 24 hours long. Without the Moon, our planet would spin much, much faster. And now the brake is gone. Imagine an ice skater spinning with their arms outstretched. When they pull their arms in, they spin faster. This is called the conservation of angular momentum. The Earth-Moon system is the ice skater with its arms out. When the Moon vanishes, the arm is gone. The Earth, to conserve that same energy, pulls itself in and spins faster. The spin-up is rapid. By the end of the first week, our 24-hour day is a distant memory. The day is now perhaps 12 hours long, then 10, then 8. The sun and the shattered stars rip across the sky in a dizzying blur. This isn't just disorienting, it is a catastrophe. This accelerated rotation supercharges one of the most powerful forces on our planet, the Coriolis effect. This effect, the invisible force that spins hurricanes, is a product of the planet's rotation, and we have just tripled it. The atmosphere, not yet caught up with the new speed of the land beneath it, is dragged into a state of permanent global chaos. We are not talking about storms. We are talking about the end of weather as we know it, replaced by a single state, wind. Permanent global gales of 500, 800, perhaps 1,000 kilometers per hour. Winds that do not just topple buildings, but scour them from their foundations. Winds that pick up the rubble from the earthquakes and turn it into a global sandblaster, eroding the very bedrock of the continents. Any life that survived the tsunamis and the volcanoes is now pinned to the ground, unable to move in a world-spanning, high-speed hurricane that never, ever stops. We have just survived the first week of a world without a moon. The planet is now unrecognizable, battered by tsunamis and scoured by hypersonic winds. But the slowest, most profound killer is just beginning. These are the kinds of grand, terrifying scenarios we love to explore. If you find this deep, scientific journey fascinating and want to support more thought experiments just like this, please take a second to click that subscribe button. Your support is what makes it possible for us to spend months researching these scenarios so we can bring you the full, chaotic picture. Now the planet faces its third stage, the death of stability. Stage 3, the Great Wobble. This is the death of stability. It will take longer, perhaps a decade, perhaps a century, but it is the most profound executioner of all. Right now, our Earth is tilted on its axis at a stable 23.5 degrees. This tilt is everything. It is the only reason we have predictable seasons. It is the reason the poles are cold and the equator is warm. It is the engine of our climate. But why is it so stable? The moon. The moon's massive gravity acts like a gyroscopic stabilizer, an anchor holding our planet in that perfect, life-giving tilt. Without that anchor, Earth becomes like a dying, spinning top. It begins to wobble. The tilt, no longer held in check, begins to drift. And it doesn't just drift, it swings chaotically. Scientists who have modeled this, a state known as high obliquity excursion, paint a picture of a planet gone insane. The axial tilt could swing from 0 degrees, where the sun is permanently over the equator, to a horrifying 85 degrees. Let us imagine that world. If the Earth tilts 85 degrees, the North Pole points directly at the sun. For 3 solid months, the Arctic is the hottest place on Earth. It is a summer of perpetual daylight. All ice, Greenland, the polar caps, all of it, vaporizes in a single season. The oceans don't just boil, they boil away. Then the planet swings in its orbit. Now that same pole is plunged into 3 months of absolute perpetual darkness. Temperatures plummet to 100 degrees below zero. The freshly boiled oceans now flash freeze. On this new Earth, the concept of seasons is a joke. You now have season of fire and season of deep freeze. The equator, meanwhile, would swing from being a temperate zone to a polar one every few months. Or perhaps the planet settles on a 0-degree tilt. No tilt means no seasons, ever. The sun would be locked over the equator, turning it into a permanent scorching band of uninhabitable desert, while the poles, never receiving direct light, would be plunged into an eternal, ever-expanding winter, locking the world's water into continents of ice. There is no more agriculture. There is no more stability. There is no more climate. There is only chaos. The great complex engine of life that was built on 4 billion years of stability is, in a single decade, broken. Stage 4, the final silent extinction. This is not a dramatic event. It is a slow, quiet cascade. It is the unraveling of the web of life, thread by thread. The first to go are the navigators. For hundreds of millions of years, life has evolved using the moon. Sea turtles, migrating birds, even tiny nocturnal insects, they use the moon's pale light and its predictable cycle as a map, a clock, and a compass. In a world of total darkness, they are blind. In a world of 8-hour days, their internal clocks are shattered. The great migrations of Earth cease. Billions of animals, lost and confused, simply die. The coral reefs, which time their spawning to the lunar cycle, failed to reproduce. The base of 1,000 food chains vanishes. But the true killer, the one that seals Earth's fate, is in the ocean. Phytoplankton. These microscopic plants are the true lungs of our planet. They produce more than half of all the oxygen we breathe. But they are delicate. They depend entirely on stable ocean currents and predictable seasonal sunlight. In a world of 1,000 km/h winds, chaotic axial wobbles, and boiling to freezing oceans, they are exterminated. The oceans, once blue and teeming with life, turn into a sterile purple soup. The food chain collapses from the bottom up. First, the tiny zooplankton that eat them, then the fish that eat the zooplankton, then the whales, the dolphins, the sharks, all starve in a dead ocean. And then the final, suffocating blow. With the phytoplankton gone, the planet's oxygen factories are shut down. The few hardy survivors on the surface, perhaps humans in deep bunkers or extremophile bacteria, now face a new enemy, the air itself. The oxygen levels begin to fall. The survivors of the tsunamis, the earthquakes, the global winds, and the Great Wobble will not be killed by fire or ice. They will die quietly, gasping for breath on a planet that can no longer support them. Earth is now a high-speed, wobbling, wind-scoured, suffocating rock. It is dead. The moon is not a rock. It is a guardian. It is the anchor that stabilized our tilt and gave us seasons. It is the brake that slowed our spin and gave us our 24-hour day. It is the partner that held our oceans, drove the engine of life, and acted as the cradle for all complex evolution. It is a 4.5 billion-year-old life support system. This scenario is just one of many ways our planet hangs in a delicate balance. It makes us wonder, what other cosmic dangers or scientific concepts do you want to see us explore? Tell us in the comments below. What if question keeps you up at night? The next time you look up at its familiar pale glow, remember, you are not just looking at a light in the sky. You are looking at the only reason you are here.